Welcome into an all-new betting preview for this week's Masters. That is very nice to say. I'm Rick Gaiman, that right there, Andy Lack. Andy, we have made it. Happy Masters Week.
Yeah, first major of the year, probably my favorite week of the year, busiest week of the year. We have some weather stuff that we'll talk about, which is throwing a bit of a damper on the festivities. But other than that, I would say that my mood is extremely high heading into my favorite week of the year.
Yeah, hard not to be. Let's just do the weather conversation out of the gate.
Get
I
out of the
like to
way.
just get it out of the way, and then if anybody comes in later, they can say, okay, just go back to the start of the show. So I'm no meteorologist. Here is the forecast for Augusta National or Augusta, Georgia, over the course of the next couple of days, and you will see that it is pretty soggy. Basically, chances of rain every single day. Saturday could be a total wash if it stays like this. An inch of rain expected, windy conditions, and a lot of different temperatures. Thursday, 85 degrees. Saturday, a high of 53. This is the full gamut of what we could get over 4 days.
Yeah, and I think the biggest question that I would have is how does the Masters put themselves in a position where they can get this tournament finished by Sunday? Do we see a situation where they break tradition and have threesomes go off on Sunday? Looking at it now, it still looks like it's going to rain for the better part of all of Friday and Saturday as well. And I think we both know it's a nightmare for CBS if we get a Monday finish. So I'm going to be pretty curious to see what they do to try and fit this tournament in. And my hopes would be that it all gets in on Sunday. But, you know, this is one of the things I talked about on my podcast last night. Like, they can play through a light rain. The only question is, how much does a wet golf course, and I'm curious to get your take on this as well, how much does a wet golf course, the potential for rain during play, affect how you are picking players this week and making your decisions?
Well, I think it's going to make it a lot longer, a long golf course, a lot longer, right? You're already getting zero roll. You're going to get even less than that. And there's going to be a lot of mud balls, which, we have actually seen Augusta National, not use preferred lies. Even when, I mean, the PGA Tour jumps at ball in hand every opportunity that they can get. If you're at Augusta National, a lot of times it's just, well, that's the rub of the green. Play it as it lies. You're playing it down. And that's when we've seen guys who are more experienced, like Fred Couples, who will actually like hit a low running shot on an approach on a par 5 or something to like knock the mud off their ball. Like, we've seen stuff like that around Augusta National. So I do think it is going to make the golf course even longer. So the guys that hit it farther are obviously going to be at a little bigger advantage than normal. And then, those second shots that we talk about, probably a bit more receptive into the greens. That new second shot, that new approach on 13 will be a lot more interesting because nobody's really played it at all. And then to get a soggy version of it, I think is going to be fascinating to watch. So yeah, I do think it creates some ramifications across the field.
Yeah, part of me thinks that if it's an extremely wet golf course, give even more of an edge to players like Rahm and Rory that lead the field in carry distance and are such great long iron players. And then the other school of thought, and I think this is valid as well, is okay, well, if it's actually raining for the better part of Friday and Saturday, maybe we just give more of an edge to guys like Cam Smith and Jordan Spieth because it's going to be miserable out there and everybody's missing greens. And suddenly the emphasis falls even farther on short game. So I think both schools of thought are valid. I think I'm probably leaning a little bit more towards the first one as we stand now, where I just think that has the potential to be the most distance affected Masters that we've seen in an extremely long time. I mean, the course is evolving every year. They have been making an active effort, obviously with 13, to make this a course where players are going to have to hit more long irons. And obviously, with the lack of rollout, if we get a ton of rain, that's just going to accentuate that even further. So I'm extremely interested to see how it plays out over the next couple of days and if that rain holds.
One final thought. We do not have tee times yet.
Right.
Will this forecast, again, it is Tuesday, noon Eastern. So a lot can change between now and Thursday and Friday and Saturday. But will this change your betting card when we get those tee times? I have a thought in mind, but I want to hear yours.
I don't think so because there's not a real wave split at Augusta, right? It's basically all the tee times in succession with each other. And I mean, I'll talk about this more in my DraftKings article on Wednesday about how there could be still some ways to stack in certain directions. But, it's a lot different with the Masters. It's a smaller tournament. There's only like 88 guys in the field. So it's harder to find like this clear advantage to players. So I was comfortable making my bets before tee times came out. What about you?
Agreed. I also don't think that anybody's going to be able to avoid this, right?
Right.
I think it's like everybody's going to kind of be involved in it. And even if there was some perceived wave advantage, which as you pointed out, that's not really the way it works around here, one or two delays and your perceived wave advantage has gone away. So I think everybody is kind of in the same boat here. So I agree that there is not going to be. I have not been influenced by lack of tee times on bets yet.
Yeah, and they should be coming out any second now.
I think they're dropping literally right now. So if this is true, so Matt Gannon's in the chat says Tiger and Victor at 10:18. I am going to book a flight right now if that is a true statement.
I was gonna say that is so perfect for you. That's got to be your dream pairing.
That is that's as elite. I'm not even sure I can continue with the rest of this show after just finding that out. So I will.
Wait, who's the third?
Well, I don't know. Hold on. I mean, we're live right now, so hold on. Wow.
JT Rom.
This literally just came out. Like I had the website up and refreshed. Okay, so wow, dude, I think we're both booking a flight.
Xander.
Tiger, Victor, Xander.
Oh my God, that's so perfect. All right, so just like at a total like bird's eye view, if you are betting Victor and Xander like we are, the playing with Tiger, do you like that? Do you not like that because of the circus atmosphere potential?
Hate it.
Yeah, me too. It's not ideal.
It is, listen, nobody's immune to it, right? And if you were out there at Riviera, it's a circus and it's going to be a circus at Augusta National. And, Max Homa was like in awe playing with Tiger Woods, right? And it was like, he kept an eye on time. I'm like, this dude, and like, good for you. Like, that's awesome. But it is, as much as I love this from a spectator perspective, like I hate it for the guys that like have to play with them.
Yeah, and especially at the Masters, it feels like all the attention kind of centers around Tiger. At least I know from reports on the ground last year, that's what it was. I think there's some more interesting. That's interesting. They've got Rory with Tom Kim and Sam Burns.
Very comfy. Very comfy. Where's Brooks?
Scotty Scheffler, Max Homa, and Sam Bennett. I already pity Homa because they're going to have to put that group on the clock pretty quickly between the two of them.
Danny Willett, Gary Woodland, Brooks Koepka.
Yeah, are they hiding the live players? Like, who do they have Phil with?
Bryson,
or let's do Bryson first.
Bryson, Molinari, JT Poston. Here's Bernard Longer carrying Mito and Ben Carr. Let's find Phil. Tom Hoagie and Siwoo.
Boring. They could have had so much more fun with this.
I'm just kind of rolling through here. Zach Johnson, Jason Day, Gordon Sargent, Harmon, Neiman, Hatton, DJ Connors, Justin Rose.
Okay. That's a good one.
Fitzpatrick, Morikawa, Zalatoris.
Yeah. Who do they have DJ and Cam Smith with out of curiosity?
So DJ is Connors and Rose. I haven't seen Smith yet. Cam Smith, Hideki, and Sung Jae.
Huh.
That's a sick group.
Yeah. Intriguing. I feel I'm going to give them like a B+. I feel like they played it kind of safe and by the book and didn't do anything too controversial. That's a good one. That's a great one. That's a really fun. That would probably be the one I would maybe follow if I was there.
Thomas, Rahm, Cam Young, Adam Scott, Patrick Cantlay, Kurt Kitayama. This is insanity.
Yeah, that one's going to be a zoo.
That is insane. Yeah, I do not.
Oops, have you seen Victor scripting for this week?
Yeah. The floral. I don't hate it. Everyone hates like the Jay Lindbergh stuff. I don't hate it as much, but it's a lot.
I respect it. I respect it in the sense that like I would never wear that, but if you can pull it off, by all means go for
Correct.
it.
Yeah, if you can
It's
pull
a
it off.
hard not for me, but if
Yeah.
it is for you, then all the power to you.
That line in general is not targeted towards like the
Towards
average
us.
15 handicap on like a Saturday and Sunday. It is targeted for like elite players or elite bodies. Like those are the only two. Like those are the only two things you can be to be on the Jay Lindbergh roster.
Yeah, and Victor is like one of the guys on the PGA Tour that can completely pull it off and
Yeah,
checks all of the boxes
he's
for it.
both.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
So good. Here's the betting board. It's via Odds Checker. It's a grid where you can compare across all different sports books. So you can go out and shop the best book. It's our Super Bowl, so there's lots of options. We'll talk through some of the fun stuff in just a second. But obviously, Andy, it's a big three. It's Scotty Scheffler, it's Rory McIlroy, it's John Rahm, 7-1, 7.5-1, 9.5-1. I will tell you, I've made a bet here, and I'm wondering if you have, or if you would encourage others to.
yeah, I think so. I've gone back and forth in the sense that I think bettors face one key decision this week, which is whether you are going to select one of those three or build your card in a more traditional way where you skip all of these guys and start in the 20s and have a more balanced card. I ended up biting the bullet and taking one of these three after a year where I have been burned by the top of the board so many times. And I find the most value to be on Rahm currently at that. I got him at plus 950. I think that might still be available on FanDuel, or it might just be at 9-1. To be honest with you, Rick, I really thought that there was going to be a situation where one of these players, I thought it was going to be Rahm, would drop to 10 or 11 or 12-1. Books seem to be holding very steadily as we sit here recording this on Tuesday morning. I'm not sure that there's going to be a whole lot of movement. Scotty Scheffler at 7-1 is getting a ton of action. Like you look at the handle on DraftKings Sportsbook, and Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy are both getting a ton of action at their current numbers. So there's no need for any of these sports books to move them. I thought that there was slightly more value on Rahm, but it's really tight at the top for me. What about you?
Yeah, so I've contributed to the handle on Scotty. I just listen, I've been more willing to bet the top of the board in recent weeks and in recent months, and it's been working out great. And I just look at the way that these two, specifically Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler, have just been like tee to greening every golf course to death. And for Scotty to win the Players, gaining 0.11 strokes with the putter is like super super scary stuff. And like this is just a nonstop 18 months of him of him doing this. And the only part that if you go back, dude, go back, and I'm sure you probably saw it, like the Masters on YouTube, they just released the 2022 final round broadcast, and Scotty looks scared.
Yeah,
And he told us that. I mean, he was very candid that he woke up that morning and he was like bawling his eyes out, and he was talking to
right.
Meredith like, I don't even know if I can do this. Like, I don't even know how I can go compete today. And he went like obviously he's not going to feel like that if he's in contention on this Sunday. He looks like a much more confident golfer, which is kind of hard to tell because he's kind of the same all the time. But go back and watch that final round. He looks scared to me, and we see a very confident Scotty Scheffler now that I think is really cool, honestly.
Well, as hard as it is to believe, he's a better golfer now than he was entering last year's Masters. And I know he had more wins entering last year's Masters, but if you look at strokes gained, he was a 2.2 strokes gain entering last year's Masters, and now he's entering this year at like a 2.7. So he's half a stroke better this year than he was last year, which is semi unbelievable to think. I mean, the fact that he four putted that final green to still win the Masters by 3 strokes. I mean, it's just what Scotty's doing is pretty unbelievable. I think if you are, and it's very difficult building a case against him, you would say, okay, there's a reason why only 3 times in the history of a Masters has a player gone back to back, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and Nick Faldo. There are more commitments on his plate this year. He does have more media stuff going on. He is hosting the Champions Dinner. Maybe there's a universe where he gets in his head a little bit, but from a statistical standpoint, from an on the course standpoint, it's really hard to argue against him. And it does feel like he's almost surpassed Rahm as having the highest floor in golf. Like he hasn't finished worse. He hasn't finished worse than 12th all season. And you think about a scenario where it's pouring rain and it's like, oh, there's Scotty Scheffler again, getting up and down and making a 15-footer for par. It seems like any different type of tournament, a tournament won at 17 under par, a tournament won at 3 over par, Scotty Scheffler has just as good of a chance to win.
That next group, Jordan Spieth is 18, Patrick Cantlay 19, JT at 21, Finau, Xander both at 25, and then I'll lump in, I guess I got to lump in these other 4 at the 28 number as well. That's Cam Smith, Colin Morikawa, Dustin Johnson, Jason Day. So we've got to talk about how we're perceiving the live golfers with their experience coming in, and then any specific names that are potentially worth a click here.
Well, I guess I'll start with Cam Smith. I mean, I haven't been impressed, and I do not like the preparation that he's gotten leading into Augusta. I mean, I don't know how many trips he's made personally to Augusta since between now and last year. It's certainly possible that he spent some time here, but I caught a little bit of Live Orlando last week. And that, in my opinion, that's like a grainy Florida Bermuda course with baked out greens. Like, I don't understand how any of the live players are going to be feeling heading into this week, given that they've played 3 times, in the past 4 or 5 months, and none of those golf courses are even bent grass, right? Like you're not even getting similar agronomy to what we get at Augusta. So I would say, like, looking at the live guys at top, and we'll talk about some of the other guys too, but I do have concerns about the preparation that DJ and Cam Smith have had.
Cam Smith is the only guy who was on the press conference schedule for this week, and he was very, very candid and transparent in all aspects. And he was like, yeah, my game is not where I want it to be. He said last year, over that winter break, he went back to Australia, he stayed in Ponte Vedra and he worked on parts of his game that he needed to work on, and he thought he got better. And he said this year he spent a lot of time in Australia. He didn't put as much time in prep in. He acknowledged that. And when you look at the results, it's like, yeah, I kind of get it, right? You know, he played the Australian Open in December, T47, missed the cut at the Saudi International, and the stuff on live has been like, okay, but if you're Cam Smith on live, you're probably trying to do a little bit better than okay. So yeah, I think that, I mean, that's a personal anecdote from Cam Smith, but I think it's noteworthy.
Yeah, I caught the press conference too, and I wasn't pleased with some of the things I was hearing. He was like, I made my bet and I'm happy to lie in it. It's like, you actually have that saying backwards. I think you're communicating not what you're trying to right now. Generally people that are saying I made my bet and lie in it are not happy with the current situation, because right after he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy with my decision. It's like, who do you think you're fooling right now?
He also started that saying, and then he was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I feel like midway through he was like, oh no,
I do that all the time.
Right
yeah. What are the names to be clicking here, right? I mean, I think for a lot of years leading up to this event, Justin Thomas would be a staple on most people's betting card, right? You know, getting better and better at Augusta National. I'm not sure what the temperature is on him at the moment, or really any of these other guys. I think there's a couple we'll get to, but what do we do here?
Probably Xander and Cantlay are my favorite, and I just wish that Cantlay was at a little bit of a better number. He was the first man out for me with that big bet that I made on Rahm, but I just refuse to believe that he is not going to figure it out at major championships, more specifically Augusta. And he has had success at Augusta. He was leading the 2019 Masters for a split second, but he went off a little bit early and ended up finishing 9th. This should be a golf course. And he talked about this in a recent interview where he does feel like he's getting more comfortable at Augusta. And I do think that looking at his lead-in form, he's hitting the ball phenomenally right now. He is driving the ball at an extremely high level. This is probably the best that I've seen Cantlay drive the ball in his career. I have no concerns about his iron game either. I think of the elite players, maybe outside of Cam Smith, I would say that he is the best pure putter out of the elite players. I don't have many concerns about his short game. I mean, he is up there with Rahm and Rory and Xander as the most well-rounded players in the world. I just wish that I was getting a 25 or a 26 on him. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still looking at a player that has 3 top 10s in 23 major starts, right? And it's really I think if you're just asking me for get odds, who is your gut telling you is most likely to win? I'd say Cantlay, but I don't think that I can get there at the current number.
Yeah, I love that he is an equipment free agent and he's playing great in the long game. I think that's important. I think it's noteworthy, right? He's found something that he's comfortable with. He's found something that he's dialed into, and he found something that he made the choice on, which I think is important. The other one, so you've got the Cantlay who on paper should be winning all of these. And then you've got the guy who's like actually winning all of these in
Right.
Colin Morikawa, right? Who, flashed it at the Players Championship, gaining 9 strokes on approach. The stat profile hasn't really changed all that much. I think when Colin speaks, I cover my ears. I think that he is whether it's because he's a top tier athlete, whether he's trying to convince himself, I do not believe that he is a reliable narrator of his own game. I think that his baselines and reference points, because he is an elite golfer, are off. So I like plug my ears. I'm looking at his stat profile. This looks like any other Colin Morikawa stat profile. He could just go out and win the Masters.
Yeah, and we saw how the irons came completely back for him at the Players. That's what you need to see out of Morikawa, is you need to see that elite iron ability, which he has actually shown previously at the Masters last year when he finished 5th, and he actually putted well here as well, which is generally always the missing link for Morikawa. I don't know if it makes me feel more confident or less confident in him, but they're usually books are a little bit more lenient and willing to drop him, and they have him holding pretty steady at 25-1, where we've seen Morikawa go off in the 30s at majors before, even in the 40s. So I don't know whether that's good or bad. I just was expecting, and I don't know if we're going to see it as we approach like midday on Tuesday, but I just was expecting one of these guys. Like, how is there not like a rogue like 33-1 on Tony Finau at this point? Books seem to be being pretty stingy at this point still.
Yeah, I looked at that and I stared at it and I was like, no,
It's
I
just too
don't,
low.
I just
Even
can't get
Jason
there
Day, yeah.
with JT, with Xander there, with Colin. I mean, I just can't get there on Tony. You're right. There's not that 35-1 hanging out there on Tony. There are 35s on like Max Homa, for example. Cam Young is in this next tier. Victor Hovland. There's better numbers than 37 on Victor if you can shop that. So where are we drawing the line here, right? We're still firmly in the players that can win this golf tournament?
I think so. I think
Okay.
all these players in this price, I don't love all of them. Like I'm not big on Burns. I'm definitely not big on Brooks this week as much as some of others are, coming off his win at a Cricket Cat. But I still think this is a range of players that can win the Masters. Max Homa is far too good of a player to not figure this place out. He is
Yeah.
greatly improved on classical golf courses in difficult conditions. I probably like him at LA Country Club in a couple months more than I like him at Augusta this week. But we're still in the tier of players that can win the Masters. I mean, I think probably the cutoff for me is like 60-1, 66-1. There hasn't been a winner in the past decade past 66-1. People even forget with Danny Willett. Danny Willett was like the 12th ranked player in the world and was 66-1. He just did all of his damage in Europe. So I think like, what's your cutoff this week? Like Justin Rose, Shane Lowry, probably.
Yeah, Rose, yes, I think
Probably
can win.
Rose, yeah.
No, that's probably it. Rose. I was gonna say Fitzpatrick, but if I lump in Rose, I could say Neiman, that's fine. Fleetwood questionable, Minwoo questionable, Terrell Hatton probably, Shane Lowry like lukewarm on. I don't really care that much. So if I get Rose, I gotta include those other guys too. But yeah, Fitzpatrick or Rose.
Yeah, we're now in the point where like I would be fairly shocked if Corey Connors won the Masters. I'd be really shocked if Minwoo Lee or Tommy Fleetwood or Joaquin Niemann won the Masters. So it's like Rose for me, I would say.
You know who I wouldn't be surprised to win the Masters, and I think this is going to be received well by you, Hideki.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, do not need a hard sell on Hideki this week. I like the way that he hit the ball last week at the Valero. He had like this very quiet top 5 finish at the Players Championship. I think form is like a very delicate thing with Hideki, where it always seems like he's kind of on the mend, but then it can come back really quickly. And he was the guy that broke all of the Masters trends of the past decade. He was the guy. He had no top 10s entering the Masters the year that he won. So you kind of have to put all of the stats to the side and say, okay, he's done this before in worse form. He entered in worse form entering the year that he won the Masters. So why not this year?
There's kind of a couple layers for Hideki. You are very correct in that he does not foreshadow good play. Like, he can just snap off and be the best player in the world. He is not like some of these guys that you see them play their way into it. He's not, which makes him very difficult to predict. The other thing is, I'm stoked with where his long game's at. 9 of his last 10 rounds, he's gained off the tee. He did it all 4 rounds at the Valero. The approach play is getting better. It's not elite like it used to be, but it's getting better. The part that he's been struggling with, that short game around the green, a little bit with the putter, that's the part around Augusta National that I think the experience really matters with, right? We saw Tiger on Monday night. He played 9 holes, but what he really did is he took his putter and wedges out there and walked 9 holes and hit short game shots and putts, because he knows how critical that is. And Hideki's been a huge gainer around the greens in the last 2 years. He's been a positive putter in the weeks that we have measured for the Masters. So I think that if he can take that short-term ball striking, lean a little bit on the experience around the greens and on the greens, I think Hideki can win this golf tournament.
Yeah, and I think the way that I'm really looking at it this week when I'm selecting my players, especially farther down the board, if you start talking about finishing positions and for DraftKings, like, there are 4 crucial boxes that I want my players to check. I would like them to be long off the tee. I would like them to be great long iron players. I would like them to have an excellent short game, and I would like them to have some experience at Augusta. It's generally like 3 times that you have to play Augusta before you see your strokes gain number increase. Usually players start to increase on their 3rd appearance. 8 of the last 10 winners have had at least 3 appearances at the Masters before. And Hideki basically checks all of those 4 boxes, at least 3 of them. He's not incredibly long off the tee, but he's a great long iron player. Obviously, he's got a great history at Augusta, and he's got one of the most underrated short games in the world as well. So you're not going to find too many players in that 40 to 70 range that check as many boxes as Hideki this week.
As short as 66 to 1, as long as 80 to 1, what number would the big cat Tiger Woods have to be for you to bet him outright?
I mean, I would sprinkle on him at like 150 to 1. I do think, watching his press conference this morning, it's the same Tiger blabber that he always gives. I can hit all the shots, but the walking is more difficult for me than anything else. Let me ask you this: on a wet golf course that could potentially make distance more important this week. I mean, we were both out there in person in Riviera watching. He hits the ball a long way still. I mean, did these conditions make you feel better or worse about Tiger? Because it seems like there's an argument for both sides.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that, like, it's going to be harder to walk.
Yes.
But you could argue that his game might be a little bit better. Listen, I'm actually more optimistic on Tiger than I have been probably in the last couple of years. Now, I don't know if how low that bar is, right? But he played pretty good at Riviera, and he looked a lot stronger at Riviera than he did. I mean, he was in full on limp immediately at Augusta National last year, immediately. Yeah. And he had a hitch in his gait at Riviera, but a lot stronger than we saw. So I'm pretty optimistic. Yeah, 150 to 1, sure. I don't think he's going to win, but I think we're going to get a pretty decent finish from him.
Yeah, I mean, he was, like I said, he was hitting the ball just as far as Rory McIlroy out there. I think the only scenario is if the weather gets really bad and it is like actually raining on Saturday, is there the potential for a Southern Hills situation where he makes the cut and it's just absolutely miserable on Saturday and he says, let me pack this one in. I'm in
Maybe.
44th place. That's possible. But what do you think about the minus 150 to make the cut?
Oh yeah, I think I'm in on that side.
I
First
think
of all,
so too. Yeah.
we've seen him get out of the gate usually better. The opening round at St. Andrews kind of stunk because he hits his first one, he like whiffs it into the creek right there on one, and like never got it going after that. But like you usually see his better golf earlier in the week. He's only gonna have to. I mean, this is a pretty easy cut to make, right? Like let's be clear. And I think his experience is worth like 1.8 shots around.
Top 50 in ties of a field of 90, and then you have to throw out like 12 guys
Sandy
because
Lyle
Sandy Lyle and Mike Weir and all those guys. Yeah. I think Tiger's going to make the cut. I would probably put his finishing position over under at like 30th, right? Something like that. 30th, 35th.
I'll take the whatever the better side of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even his top 20 number is what, plus 180, something like that, if I just had to guess?
His top 20 number is plus 230.
Yeah, that's not bad. There are worse bets out there. Would you play him in DraftKings?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to make, I also don't think his game is like super great for fantasy scoring right now.
I agree.
His game is to shoot, make 3 birdies and no bogeys.
Yeah.
Like a 3 under 69 bogey free. Like that's the game right now. It's not 7 birdies, 4 bogey. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't think that's the game right now.
Do you think Phil has any chance?
I think Phil, and we can clip this, has 0 chance. I just like what evidence is there that Phil Mickelson,
who has been stinking up the joint at
everywhere.
Live.
I mean, he was stinking up the joint on the PGA Tour before he went to Live, and now he's stinking up the joint on Live.
A true liability for the high flyers, honestly. You never thought that when he signed that deal and came on as captain that he would be the one score that they're having to drop every week. Yeah. I don't think Phil will be a factor, although it will be curious to see if any of those Live guys farther down the board, like now, I guess we're starting to talk about a little bit more for these guys probably can't win, but like, is there a universe where they can finish top 10 or top 20 for you? Like, do you see a scenario where Patrick Reed is like in the 4th group going off on Sunday, or are you just kind of out?
Yeah. No, I mean, he's played better on Live, and he's kind of like a back against the wall kind of guy, which is weird. He just finds a way to kind of get it done. So no, I think Reed could have a pretty good week. I think Brooks could have a pretty good week. I think Neiman could have a pretty good week. That's probably the short list. I think that like Schwartzel could finish inside the top 25. I think that Louis could finish inside like the top 15.
Bryson total cross off.
Let's talk about guys who've been bad, right? And I mean, he hasn't been able to solve Augusta National. I bet I did throw $10 on him because Circa had him at 195 to 1.
Yeah.
And then I made the bet and they moved him to 225. That's how I move markets. I move it in the opposite direction. They see my money coming in and they're like, we're good. Just make the number longer. So, I mean, that's insanity, but like I have very low expectations for Bryson.
Me too. Yeah. I think that a lot of these guys surrounding him, like I think that Sahith and Kurt Kitayama, even as debutantes, are safer bets to have a good week.
Taylor Gooch is 210 to 1. If you can find that Gooch number, so do I. He's been playing. I mean, he's always been kind of like a ball. Like if he can drive it, okay, lean into your second shot. He's been playing he's been playing pretty good on Live. He finished 14th here last year. I'd much rather love Gooch at that number than any of those other guys.
Yeah. And I think now we're at the point where we're just talking about guys. These guys can't win, but are they players maybe that you can look to in DraftKings? Can they outperform their finishing positions? But I think we're on the same page. Like the group is maybe 15 guys and it kind of cuts off there at 60, 70 to 1.
Here's the matchup market. And obviously we're getting all of the big boys. Rory McIlroy minus 138 to John Rahm's plus 115. Rory minus 115 to Scotty Scheffler's minus 105. Xander and Tony Finau at minus 110 apiece. Is there a golfer or golfers that you'd be interested in targeting in the matchup market, whether that is on their side or against them?
I think famous last words, right? But I think I'm probably lower on Jordan Spieth than consensus this week.
Mm.
Like, well, that's interesting to me. What is the Cantlay Spieth number?
Cantlay is -129 to Spieth's +108.
Why is that? Spieth is higher in DraftKings pricing. Spieth is higher generally on the betting board than Cantlay. That's telling to me that I think maybe they still even think that Cantlay is a safer bet. That surprises me a lot. I thought that I'd be able to get plus money on Cantlay over Spieth this week.
Yeah, I'm just kind of scrolling through some of these other ones. That is pretty interesting. What about guys like, okay, Cam Young -144 to Max Homa's +120. I think that if we Max Homa's like an X factor this week, because we agree that he's probably a top 6, 7 player in the world. He is much better now than he's ever been in recent editions of any major championship. At some point, he's going to snap off and have a good week. I'd prefer to kind of be early rather than late on Max. Are we like, what's the consensus here?
I just think that number is too high too, that he's plus 120 against Cam Young when, if you look at the outright odds and the DraftKings pricing, like he is ahead of Cam Young and for the most part has been still a far more consistent player this year than Cam Young. I mean, he's playing Augusta for his 4th time, right? Cam Young is only playing Augusta for his 2nd time and he missed the cut badly in his first appearance. There's some interesting ones in there. Cameron Smith, Jason Day. I kind of throw my hands up at that one. I think I'd take Day, but that's an interesting one for sure.
Day -127 to Cam Smith's +106. Here's just the two live boppers together. Cam Smith, the dog to Dustin Johnson. DJ
Weird.
minus, right?
What is happening with these matchup markets? It feels like the dog is generally the guy that is a little bit lower down on the odds board in DraftKings pricing and in the outright market.
So I think the sentiment on Cam has shifted a little bit, because if you looked at this a week or two ago, he was like 18 to 1 and he had like the 5th shortest odds, and DJ was like 28 to 1 or whatever. And now they're getting much closer, if not DJ at 22, Cam Smith at 25. And I think that pendulum has maybe swung too far. Like I think DJ can have a great week. If you want to play him on DraftKings, whatever, I don't care. I think that's fine. But I think the pendulum has swung a bit too far on Cam Smith to be a dog to Dustin Johnson in a matchup.
Do you think blindly, if you take odds out of the equation and you just have to pick who's more likely to win, are you taking DJ or Cam?
I think I'd still have to take Cam, right?
Yeah, I think so. By a hair. Once you get down here, I mean,
Varner versus Bryson, Kirk versus Thomas Peters, Danny Willett's a favorite over Harris English. Gooch is a favorite over.
I think my favorite one that I've seen down here is Gooch over Noren. I think I'll eat the juice. I think I'll eat the juice a little bit on that one. I'd take Schwartzel over Phil too, for what it's worth.
Schwartzel -138 to Phil's +115. Okay, I was looking for a couple Tiger ones down here. So Tiger -105 to Sergio's -115.
Huh.
Here's the two amateurs. That's pretty okay. From this Gordon Sargent kid is like,
people are talking about him.
Yeah, catching steam. Vanderbilt kid. Highly ranked amateur, -228 to Sam Bennett. I know people were like dying to find the top AM numbers.
Yeah, I think Data Golf put out that like the level that he's playing at right now is like already close or better than some PGA Tour players. Which how are we really measuring things at the amateur level? But yeah, there's some buzz around Sargent. I don't know. Are you a big fan this week of the alternative markets, whether it be like top debutant, stuff like that?
Speaking of which, yeah, I don't mind these, right? So because we only get this like once a year, I will obviously indulge. So Tom Kim's the favorite to be top debutant. There are 3, 6, 8, 16 of them. Sahith is +550, Mito 6 to 1, Kurt Kitayama 6 to 1. I wouldn't mind. That's interesting. Like Taylor Moore 8.5 to 1 or Svensson at 10 to 1 is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I like Kitayama a lot. I just think Kitayama's skill set for Augusta National is really strong. Like Kitayama hits the ball a really long way off the tee. He's a really good long iron player. His short game isn't a liability. So I just think like at a macro level, just looking at the types of things that Kitayama does well, I think Augusta should be a really good fit for him. Even Sahith, like you look at what Sahith struggles with the most, it's accuracy off the tee. And that's really the one thing that you can get away with Augusta is you have so much room to operate off the tee. I want Sahith on courses where you can spray it a little bit. And Sahith actually has a really, really strong short game as well. So it'd probably be Kitayama or Sahith for me in that debutante market.
Top lefty, Brian Harman plus 160, Bubba plus 170, Phil plus 275, Mike Weir 10-1. That's like the most boring. That's a pillow fight, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm good on that one.
All right,
Bubba, if you force me.
Top senior, Fred Couples 4-1.
Fred Couples.
Lock
I'm with you. Yeah, I'll go Freddie with you there.
Top former. I don't like this as much because you have guys who are, this is top former winner, because you do get like the Mike Weirs with the Scotty Scheffler. So I don't love this as much. I would rather just like bet somebody outright. Like I don't like the top former winner market. I like all the other markets.
No. How about, did you see they were like, is Tiger Woods going to have a hole-in-one on 4? Like,
yeah, it's right
at 180-1.
Yeah, it should be like 18,000 to 1.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
I mean,
I was gonna say like at least like 2,000 to 1 on this one. Jeez.
Like what are for the guy might play it 4 times. He'll play
4's like a 230-yard par 3.
There's been like, I don't know how many aces there's ever been there, but come on. How about this? Tiger to break the course records only 50-1.
What is it? 63, I think. Yeah.
So we'd have to shoot a 62 to break it.
In
10
wet,
under.
In wet and rainy conditions.
These are just money printers for
what
I actually think that. So as we're legalizing this, they should have to offer a no option. You should have to, even if it's like $1 million, like minus $1 million, you should be required to offer a no instead of just taking everybody's money at the plus.
They do that at Circa, right? Where it's
Circa's
like this player will win the Masters, this player will not win the Masters, and you can bet on a guy at like 100-1 to win the Masters, and then the other side of it to not win the Masters.
Yeah, imagine betting like the fate of like one guy to not win is absolutely terrifying. Okay, we're gonna continue this conversation. We've got to do props and we've got to do one and done. First, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from Andy's podcast. Andy Lack is one of the nerdiest golf guys that I know, and I mean that as an absolute compliment. His knowledge of course architecture allows him to create some of the most actionable course previews available, and he offers up pure expertise on his own podcast, the Inside Golf Podcast. Twice a week, he offers course breakdowns, DFS, and betting strategy for every PGA Tour event, and he expands the universe by bringing on entertaining and knowledgeable guests who can offer a different viewpoint of the game that we love. Follow Inside Golf Pod on Twitter and download Inside Golf wherever you download podcasts. All right, we're back. We've got the props here via PrizePicks, and they are rocking and rolling with birdies or better, strokes, greens in regulation, and fairways hit on this Tuesday. Andy, let's start with the strokes. You're seeing the big boys hovering around 70.5. This is a par 72. You can get Spieth and JT and DJ and Cantlay at 71. You can get the big cat at 73.5. I've got a couple of nuggets here that I wrote in my newsletter for this week, but does anything stand out to you as I scroll through these?
Well, these feel a touch low. I feel like the scoring average that I had in mind for round one, even with it being the day that we are going to see less rain and it should be a little bit more ideal scoring conditions, I still feel like the scoring average is going to come in around like 73. So some of those guys at 70.5 or 71, I would maybe consider taking the over on. I think those numbers just out of bird's eye view are a touch low, but not like an insane amount of value. What about you?
So here were the two that I ran the numbers on a lot more, but here were the two that came out to me. So I agree with you. And I also think that, so the problem with, so 2020 skews the scoring averages. So I had to throw that out. That was a November Masters, it was wet. The scoring was unbelievable. I had to throw that out. The changes to 13 are going to impact the average. I just don't know by how much. So we're playing a little guessing game here, obviously. I will say, so for round one, this number was 71 for Rory. It's now 70.5. So he has played 14 times at Augusta National. He's gone under 71 in the opening round just 3 times. And then since he has needed this event to complete the career Grand Slam, his average is 72.3 in the opening round. He's talked about how hard it has been for him to
get off to a good start.
get
Yeah.
off to a good start, especially with that kind of hovering over him. So I actually, I already liked the overside of this, and it got a half a point better. So I will take the over on Rory. The other one is Tiger, 73.5. Now, how about this? Injured or not, Tiger has gone under 73.5 in 11 straight opening rounds. Now, I think he is going to start faster, right? And as we have seen historically, so these are the two that I'm kind of rocking with for now.
Interesting. You could definitely sell me on the Rory one too. I think the Tiger number is probably like right where it should be. Is Spieth at 71?
Yes.
What's because I'm gonna bet this. I think this guy's gonna be first round leader, but what's Justin Rose hanging out at? It always feels like that guy's in the mix. I would almost consider the under on Justin Rose at 72. It always feels like he gets off to such a hot start at Augusta.
Okay, fair enough. Well, they are rocking and rolling with the props, and I think we'll see more as the week goes on. I'm hoping to see the Amen Corner stuff come through, because we've got Amen Corner coverage, and it's always fun to watch every single shot, and you're sweating that out. So hopefully we see those props over the course of the week. If you want to get in on this, we do have a promo code. It's Rick. There's a link in the description. You get your $100 deposit bonus, so you can put that down on Rory and Tiger, or any other combination of these that you want as the week goes on. Andy, let's wrap this up by talking about one and done. And I think this is a really interesting week because we get the injection of all the live guys, right? So it's hard enough to save your guys in a one and done scenario, but now we get an injection of a handful more that we could use at a major. Let's just start with that. Like, how comfortable are you using a live guy? What is the situation in which you would use one?
I would say that especially in larger contests, I am comfortable rolling out a player like Cam Smith and DJ. Now, we also need to consider the fact that a lot of people are thinking this way as well. So I don't think that DJ or Cam in larger one and done contests are going to come in at like 1 or 2%, right? I don't think they're totally sneaking up on people. I think people will be in that mindset where it's like, okay, this is definitely, you have to imagine, right, that most people are thinking, okay, this is definitely the best place to use Cam Smith all year, right? So
yeah,
that I would say that Cam Smith and DJ, especially Cam Smith, probably come in at like 6% at least in one and done contests. No,
a lot higher than that. So this is, again, early in the week, and we'll see. But officefootballpool.com lets you see the site-wide selections. And Scheffler and Rory, 24 and 22%.
Oh my goodness.
Cam Smith, 19.
That's irresponsible.
Dustin Johnson, 8. Brooks Koepka, 5.5.
What's Rahm at?
That is basically the live guys that I'm looking through. Rahm is 11.1.
Okay, I kind of like that. Okay, you haven't used him.
Yeah, so I've generally burned a lot of the top guys. Now, this is probably going to end up, we don't even know the purse yet. They'll probably announce it on Friday. I imagine this is going to end up being like the 8th or 9th biggest tournament.
Yeah,
it's going to be behind the designated events. So who are kind of some of these not big 3, not big 5 options that we could, like Spieth?
Well, I was going to say, who is the forgotten elite? Is it JT?
JT, 3.4%.
Okay, so yeah.
Cantlay, 2.3.
Wow, I don't believe that Cantlay number is so low. So that's it. Those would be the two guys where I would say those in larger one and done contests, probably the most sensible selections if you're talking about forgotten elites where they have the highest combination of leverage and upside. It's probably Justin Thomas and Patrick Cantlay if you're looking at sub 5% on those two guys.
I will try to summon the courage to, especially in ones that I'm chasing, to play Hideki.
Yeah.
1%.
1%, huh?
And I will try to summon that courage over the course of the next couple of days, because the other problem is I've probably used him in like I've either used, if it started before the season, I used him at Zozo. I might have used him at like the Sony. If I have him available and I'm chasing, I will use Hideki.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Would you are you more inclined to use Hideki at 1% than Cantlay and JT at sub 5 if you have both available?
Oh man.
Even Finau at 2%. Wow.
But I do feel like, okay, JT and Cantlay are very usable the rest of the way. Is there another spot for Hideki? Is it because a lot of his spots are early in the year? It's Sony, it's Phoenix. It is, you could use him at Torrey if you want. You could use him here. Is there gonna be another better spot for Hideki? Because there's gonna be a lot for JT and Cantlay.
Not necessarily. That's a really good point. And I probably am a little bit higher on JT and Cantlay at the other 3 majors this year if we're starting to play that game. So yeah, I think in terms of course fit, this is the best you're going to get on Hideki for the rest of the year.
You and I need to make selections here.
We do. I know I'm going with too, because I think have you used all 3 of the big 3?
Yeah, I have. So I stopped the bleeding last week. I stopped the losing streak. Ricky Fowler got 206,000. Siwoo got 36,000. So I padded a little bit here. I'm 3 million up on you as we enter major championship season. So it's still my ball. I've used the big 3. I don't love this. I do not love this selection, but I'm just trying to, I'm only playing you. I've got a lead. I'm trying to say I've put foot on the pedal very early in this, so I'm trying to save some guys. I'm taking Dustin Johnson.
Wow. Okay. I'll take Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, as you should. Like, for sure. He is, dude. I mean, we probably didn't even give him enough credit. He is, he's special right now. I think he is a little too introspective for his own good. Honestly, he is a historian. He knows what it would mean to add his name to the career. Like, I wish I had Rory's game and Dustin Johnson's brain.
Right. Yeah. And part of me was like, I feel like he's going to blow it in front of everyone for the Masters and then like win Oak Hill and like get the major, but not the Grand Slam.
Yeah, he's going to win like the other 3, but he's not going to win this.
Not going to win the one that haunts him every single night. Yeah. I just think there's enough like you listen to Freddie Couples talk and it's like, he's going to win one. There's no way that he can continue to play this golf course. That feels like it was built for him. By the way, like a wet golf course. How many of Rory's like iconic wins when he was at his best early in his career? Like, I'll never forget, like, go back and watch Congressional and how soggy that golf course was. Like, you want to talk distance to apex and carry distance and stuff like that. And it's like towering high draws with a 3-iron. Like, sign me up. I'll take Rory.
Rory is a mutter for sure. So there you go. Betting preview for this week's Masters. Andy already has his course preview on RickRunGood.com. He's got more coming. That is going to be phenomenal stuff. We are in full swing here. Absolutely stoked for it. Anything I missed? Anything else we need to talk about?
I don't think so. Is there any like giant questions in the chat that we should just like answer super quickly?
Was not paying attention. There was a question about Justin Thomas. Just real quick, what do you think JT's chances are?
I think he's an incredible one and done in DraftKings play. I think I'm probably good on the outright number.
Best players in wet conditions. We kind of talk. I just like bombers, guys who carry it far, right?
That's really tough to measure because we start discerning like, what do you consider wet? But off the top of my head, give an edge to Rory and guys that hit the ball high.
Is there is Mito the forgotten live guy?
Sure. 7,200 in DraftKings. I'm okay with that.
What does Kevin Na have left in the tank?
I'm good on that one. It's going to be a pass for me.
All right. That'll do it.
Yeah, we got him.
All right. Big thanks, producer Mina. She does all the hard work behind the scenes. Andy Lack available on Twitter at ADP Lack Sports. You can find me at RickRunGood. This has been your betting preview for this week's Masters. Good luck.